Leonardo's breath caught as awareness flooded him. The cool air on his skin suddenly electric, but it was too late. The moment had already shattered the fragile boundary between them. A line drawn in blood and silence now erased in the space of a heartbeat. Leonardo Vargas had always believed in the quiet architecture of routines, the kind that held a man's life together like the steel beams of a Seattle high-rise against the relentless Pacific Northwest drizzle. At 42, he was a structural engineer by trade, mapping out bridges and skyscrapers on blueprints that demanded precision where his personal world allowed none. His apartment in Capitol Hill was a testament to that controlled chaos. Exposed brick walls lined with dog-eared novels on urban decay and queer theory, a kitchen perpetually scented with the bitter roast of his morning coffee from the corner roastery, and a king-sized bed that swallowed him whole on nights when the loneliness pressed in like fog off Elliott Bay. Divorce had carved him hollow 5 years ago, a marriage to Elena that had crumbled under the weight of unspoken truths. His truths, the ones about the men he dreamed of in the dark, the ones that made her eyes turn cold and distant before she packed her bags for Portland. They had no children, no shared wreckage beyond the echo of arguments in empty rooms, and Leonardo had learned to fill the silence with work, with the hum of his drafting table, with the occasional anonymous swipe on apps that promised connection but delivered only hollow echoes. He was out to his family, had been since college, but in the Vargas clan, rooted in the immigrant grit of Mexican-American resilience in the Southwest. Acceptance came laced with caution, like a gift wrapped in barbed wire. His sister, Maria, called him the family anchor, the one who never rocked the boat. So when she rang last month, voice cracking over the line from Austin, pleading for him to take in her son for the summer, Leonardo said yes without hesitation. Alex was 20, a sophomore at the University of Washington studying environmental science, but Maria's husband had lost his job in a factory layoff, and the Texas heat was suffocating their already strained marriage. "Just until fall semester starts," she begged. "He's a good kid, Leo. Needs some space to breathe." Leonardo pictured Alex as the lanky teenager from family reunions, all awkward limbs and shy grins. But the boy who arrived at Seattle-Tacoma with a duffel bag and a backpack was something sharper. Tall and lean, with sun-bleached brown hair that fell in waves over his forehead, green eyes inherited from some distant Irish ancestor, and a quiet intensity that made Leonardo pause mid-hug at baggage claim. That first week unfolded like a tentative dance. Alex claimed the guest room down the hall. Its walls painted a soft sage green that Leonardo had chosen on a whim during a rare burst of optimism. Mornings began with the sputter of the espresso machine. Alex padding in barefoot, wearing faded band tees and jeans that hugged his hips just enough to stir an unwelcome flicker in Leonardo's chest. They talked over breakfast surface level at first, about Alex's classes on climate modeling, the protests he joined in Seattle streets against fossil fuel pipelines, the way the city's emerald canopy felt like a rebellion against the concrete sprawl. Leonardo shared stories of his own undergrad days at UW, the engineering labs that smelled of solder and ambition, the underground queer poetry slams in Pioneer Square where he'd first tasted the raw edge of his identity. Evenings blurred into shared silences on the worn leather couch, a baseball game flickering on the flat screen while rain pattered the skylight. Alex would sketch in a battered notebook, detailed renderings of Puget Sound's fractured shorelines, his pencil scratching like a confession. Leonardo watched him from the corner of his eye, noting the way his nephew's fingers flexed, the subtle curve of his neck when he tilted his head in concentration. It was innocent, Leonardo told himself, the pull of familial affection amplified by proximity. But late at night, alone in his room, the dreams came unbidden. Fragments of touch, of Alex's laugh echoing too close, too intimate. The incident happened on a Thursday, the kind of gray Seattle afternoon that bled into evening without apology. Leonardo had come home early from a site visit in Ballard, his muscles aching from climbing scaffolding in the mist. Alex was out at a lecture on indigenous land rights, his backpack slung over one shoulder as he dashed into the downpour. Leonardo showered off the day's grime, the steam curling around him like a lover's breath, and collapsed into bed still damp, the exhaustion pulling him under before he could even pull on more than sweatpants. Sleep claimed him swiftly, dreamless at first, then veering into territory he dared not name. Warm skin against skin, a hand tracing the line of his jaw, green eyes locking with his in the half-light. He did not hear the front door click open, nor the soft tread of sneakers on hardwood. The apartment's layout was open, forgiving, the guest room door left ajar as always. Alex, soaked from the walk back, had meant only to ask about dinner plans, a habit they'd fallen into. Tacos from the truck on Broadway, or pasta thrown together with whatever wilted herbs lingered in the fridge. He pushed open Leonardo's door without knocking. The words, "Hey, Uncle Leo, you want?" dying on his lips. There, in the spill of late afternoon gray from the window, Leonardo lay sprawled, the sheet kicked aside in sleep. His body arched slightly as if chasing the ghost of his dream. Sweatpants rode low, exposing the dark trail of hair leading downward. His chest bare and marked by the faint scars of old appendectomy and the broader map of a life lived in quiet battles. Alex froze, heart slamming against his ribs, a flush creeping up his neck that had nothing to do with the chill of wet clothes. It was not revulsion that held him there, but something sharper, more forbidden. A curiosity laced with heat, the sudden awareness of his uncle as a man, not just the steady presence who'd welcomed him into this rainy sanctuary. Leonardo's eyes fluttered open at the shift in air pressure, the prickling sense of being observed. Time fractured, the dream's haze colliding with reality, Alex's silhouette sharpening into focus. "Alex?" he rasped, voice thick with disorientation, yanking the sheet up in a frantic tangle that only exposed more. The curve of his thigh, the vulnerability of surprise. Alex's gaze darted away, then back, cheeks burning, but he did not flee. Instead, he stepped forward, closing the door behind him with a soft click that echoed like a verdict. I didn't mean to," Alex stammered, but his eyes betrayed him, lingering on the flush of Leonardo's skin, the rapid rise of his breath. The room smelled of cedar soap and rain, the air thick with unspoken questions. Leonardo sat up, sheet clutched like a shield, his mind racing through excuses, through the chasm of years and blood that separated them. Yet beneath the panic, a treacherous spark ignited. The echo of the dream made flesh, standing there in dripping flannel and jeans that clung to long legs. "It's okay," Leonardo managed, voice steadier than he felt, though his pulse thundered in his ears. "Just a nap. Long day." He forced a smile, but it cracked at the edges, and Alex mirrored it with one of his own, nervous, electric, the first thread of something unraveling between them. Dinner that night was a minefield of averted glances and stilted conversation. They opted for delivery, Thai from a hole in the wall on Pike Street, the kind with peanut sauce that stuck to your fingers like guilt. Seated at the scarred oak table, chopsticks clinking against takeout containers, Alex dissected the day's lecture with forced enthusiasm, his words tumbling out too fast. The speaker's passion for salmon restoration in the Salish Sea, the urgency of glacial melt data that kept him up at night. Leonardo nodded, forking noodles, but his focus snagged on the way Alex's throat worked when he swallowed, the droplet of rain still beating on his collarbone. By the time they cleared the plates, the tension had thickened, a current humming beneath the surface. Alex lingered in the kitchen, drying dishes with methodical care, his back to Leonardo as water ran in the sink. "Sorry about earlier," he said finally, voice low, almost lost in the rush. "I should have knocked." Leonardo leaned against the counter, arms crossed over his chest, the memory of exposure still burning low in his belly. "No harm done. We're family. Boundaries get blurry sometimes." But even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. This was no mere slip. The air between them crackled, charged with the what-ifs that had no place in the light of day. Alex turned then, drying his hands on a towel, green eyes meeting hazel with a directness that stole Leonardo's breath. "Yeah, family." The word hung there, waited, and for a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Alex stepped closer, close enough that Leonardo could smell the damp earth on his skin, the faint citrus of his shampoo. "But you're not just that to me, Uncle Leo. Not anymore." The confession landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading through Leonardo's resolve. He reached out, intending only to steady. A hand on Alex's shoulder, paternal, safe. But his fingers lingered, tracing the line of damp fabric, the warmth beneath. Alex did not pull away. Instead, he leaned in, forehead resting against Leonardo's for a suspended moment, breaths mingling in the narrow space. When they parted, the world had shifted. Leonardo retreated to his room early, door locked this time, heart pounding as he lay awake listening to the rain. Across the hall, Alex stared at the ceiling, notebook forgotten, the sketch of a fractured bridge half drawn on the page. Sleep came fitfully to both, dreams weaving new patterns, touches imagined, boundaries tested, the first fragile steps into a territory mapped only by desire. The days that followed were a delicate negotiation. Mornings brought forced normalcy. Coffee brewed black for Leonardo, oat milk lattes for Alex, conversations orbiting safer topics like the Mariners' slim playoff hopes or the latest indie band playing at Numos. But the undercurrent persisted, in stolen glances across the breakfast bar, in the brush of fingers when passing the creamer. Leonardo threw himself into work, long hours at the office overlooking Lake Union, where ferries cut white wakes through the mist and the skyline promised reinvention. Yet his mind wandered, blueprints blurring as he replayed that afternoon. Alex's eyes, wide and wanting, the door clicking shut like an invitation. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, delays on a bridge retrofit project that had his boss breathing down his neck, Leonardo came home to find Alex in the living room, sprawled on the rug with his laptop open to a documentary on Stonewall. The screen glowed, casting shadows on Alex's face as he watched archival footage of riots and raised fists, the birth of a movement that had paved the way for men like them. "Ever been to the center?" Alex asked without preamble, pausing the video. "The LGBTQ one downtown?" Leonardo dropped his keys on the side table, shrugging off his jacket. "A couple times. Workshops, mostly. After the divorce." He hesitated, then joined Alex on the floor, legs stretched out, the proximity a deliberate choice. The carpet was threadbare, a relic from his college days, and it smelled faintly of spilled wine from forgotten parties. Alex nodded, eyes still on the frozen screen. "I came out last year. To Mom, Dad. They took it okay, I think." His voice dipped, vulnerability cracking through the casual tone. "But it's different here. Seattle feels like it gets it, you know? Like I can breathe." Leonardo's chest tightened, a swell of protectiveness mingling with something deeper, more selfish. "It does. Or it tries to. The city's got its shadows. But yeah, there's space here." He wanted to say more, to bridge the gap with stories of his own fumbling youth. The first kiss in a dive bar off Harvard Avenue that tasted of beer and freedom. Instead, he watched Alex's profile, the way his lips parted slightly, as if weighing words too heavy to release. The documentary resumed, voices of activists filling the room, and as the night deepened, their shoulders brushed. A spark, accidental at first, then deliberate. Alex shifted closer, head tilting to rest against Leonardo's arm, the weight light but insistent. Leonardo froze, then relaxed, his hand finding Alex's knee in the dim light, thumb tracing idle circles on denim. Neither spoke. The rain outside softened to a whisper, and in that cocoon of sound and shadow, the line blurred further, a tentative exploration of what lay beyond family, beyond taboo. By week's end, the dam broke. It was a Sunday, markets bustling in Pike Place with the tang of fresh salmon and sourdough, but they stayed in, rain confining them to the apartment's warmth. Alex cooked, chilaquiles from a recipe Maria had texted, eggs scrambled with chorizo and cilantro, the sizzle filling the air with spice. They ate on the couch, plates balanced on knees, laughing over a botched batch that left the kitchen smoky. The laughter faded into quiet, eyes meeting across the space, and Alex set his plate aside, leaning in with a question in his gaze. "Leo," he murmured, the nickname slipping out like a secret. "What if we?" The kiss was inevitable, soft at first. A press of lips that tasted of lime and hesitation. Then deepening as hands found purchase, Alex's fingers threading through Leonardo's hair, Leonardo's palm cupping the nape of his neck. They moved as one, bodies aligning on the couch, the world narrowing to the heat building between them. Clothes shed in a trail to the bedroom, whispers of weight, and yes, mingling with gasps. In the tangle of sheets, Leonardo lost himself to the rhythm of Alex's body, the forbidden thrill sharpening every touch, every sigh. Afterward, they lay entwined, rain tapping a lullaby on the window. Guilt flickered at the edges of Leonardo's mind. Blood ties, the weight of Maria's trust. But Alex's head on his chest, steady heartbeat syncing with his own, drowned it out. "This changes everything?" Alex whispered, fingers tracing Leonardo's collarbone. Leonardo pressed a kiss to his temple. "It already has." The affair bloomed in secrecy, a fragile hothouse flower thriving in the damp Seattle gloom. Mornings after became rituals of stolen intimacy. Alex slipping into Leonardo's bed before dawn, bodies curling together under the duvet, coffee breath mingling in lazy kisses as the city stirred beyond the curtains. Leonardo marveled at the ease of it, the way Alex's laughter filled the apartment like sunlight-piercing clouds, chasing away the shadows of his solitary years. They explored each other with the hunger of the newly converted, nights tangled in limbs and low moans, days laced with knowing glances over shared meals, the brush of a hand under the table at the local diner on 15th Avenue. But beneath the romance, cracks formed early. Leonardo caught himself watching Alex with a mix of awe and apprehension, the boy's youth a mirror to his own regrets. At 20, Alex moved through the world with the unscarred optimism of someone who'd only begun to test his edges. Protests in California Anderson Park, late-night study sessions in the university library overlooking the quad, friends with names like Jordan and Riley who texted memes about queer icons and climate doom. Leonardo, tethered by mortgages and midlife inventories, felt the disparity like a fault line. "You're too good for this," he murmured one evening, as they walked hand in hand through Volunteer Park after dark, the conservatory's glass dome glowing like a beacon. Alex squeezed his fingers, green eyes flashing under street lamps. "For us? Don't say that. This is the first time I've felt real." Yet reality intruded in subtle ways. A call from Maria midweek, her voice bright over speakerphone as she checked in, oblivious to the subtext. "How's my boy holding up in that rainy exile? Tell him his abuela sends tamales when you visit." Alex perched on the arm of the couch, Leonardo's head in his lap, fingers combing through dark hair as they chatted. The normalcy of it twisted Leonardo's gut. Lies woven into laughter, the double life settling like silt. He ended the call with assurances, then pulled Alex down for a kiss that bordered on desperate, as if to reaffirm the truth they guarded. Work became Leonardo's anchor and his escape. The bridge project escalated, deadlines looming like storm fronts, pulling him into overtime at the drafting table where lines of rebar and concrete offered the illusion of control. Alex filled the hours with his own rhythm. Classes on geospatial analysis, volunteer shifts at a community garden in the Central District, where he planted native ferns and talked restoration with elders from the Duwamish tribe. Evenings converged in the kitchen, Alex chopping onions while Leonardo stirred sauces, their bodies orbiting in a domestic ballet. One night, over a pot of pozole simmering with hominy and pork, Alex confessed his own ghosts. "Dad found out about me kissing a guy in high school. Didn't yell, just went quiet, like I'd broken something he couldn't fix." His knife paused, eyes distant. Leonardo set down the ladle, drawing him into an embrace that smelled of cumin and vulnerability. "Some things aren't broken. They're just waiting to be seen." The romance deepened in layers, romantic gestures blooming amid the everyday. Leonardo surprised Alex with tickets to an indie film festival at SIFF, where they sat in the back row of the Egyptian theater, fingers laced in the dark, watching stories of queer longing unfold on screen. Afterward, they wandered Capitol Hill's neon-lit streets, stopping at a dive bar for whiskey sours, the jukebox crooning Elliott Smith ballads that mirrored their fragile joy. Alex leaned across the sticky table, voice husky from the smoke. "I love how you see the world, like it's all connected, beams holding up the sky." Leonardo chuckled, but the words lodged in his chest, a reminder of the structures he built versus the one they were erecting in secret. Intimacy evolved too, from urgent passion to tender exploration. In the quiet hours, they mapped each other's scars. The faint line on Alex's ribs from a skateboarding wipeout. Leonardo's faded tattoo of a compass rose on his shoulder, inked during a post-divorce bender in Tacoma. Conversations stretched into dawn. Philosophy over cold pizza. Debates on whether love was chaos or calculus. Alex challenged Leonardo's cynicism, quoting Audre Lorde from a dog-eared copy borrowed from the apartment's shelf. The sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, or psychic, is not a parody of pleasure. Leonardo, in turn, taught him the weight of endurance, stories of navigating corporate closets in engineering firms where rainbow flags flew but promotions stalled. Yet the first real conflict simmered unspoken. Alex's phone buzzed more frequently, texts from a number saved as J that lit his face with a secretive smile. Leonardo noticed, the jealousy a sour twist in his gut, but he swallowed it, attributing it to youthful friendships. One afternoon, returning early from a lunch meeting canceled by traffic on I-5, he found Alex on the couch, phone in hand, laughing at a message. The screen glowed with a photo. Alex and a lanky guy with piercings and a beanie, arms slung around each other at what looked like a house party, caption reading, "Miss these nights, babe." The endearment hit like a slap. "Who's Jay?" Leonardo asked, voice even, though his hands clenched at his sides. Alex startled, pocketing the phone with a flush. "Just Jordan. Study buddy from freshman year. We hooked up once, but it's nothing now." The casual dismissal did little to ease the knot. Leonardo nodded, forcing a smile, but the seed of doubt took root. That night, their lovemaking carried an edge fiercer, more claiming, as if Leonardo could etch himself indelibly into Alex's skin. The crisis crested on a weekend getaway, an impulsive drive to the Olympic Peninsula where rainforests met the sea. Leonardo had booked a cabin in Port Angeles, the kind with a stone fireplace and views of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, waves crashing like unresolved arguments. They arrived at dusk, the road winding through fern-choked trails, Alex's playlist of Phoebe Bridgers filling the car with melancholic twang. Unpacked and warmed by a fire crackling with pine logs, they made love on the rug, bodies slick with sweat, and the salt of ocean air drifting through the cracked window. Afterward, wrapped in a quilt, Alex traced patterns on Leonardo's chest. "This feels like a beginning," he said softly, "but beginnings have shadows." The next morning, over coffee on the porch, mugs steaming in the chill mist, Alex's phone lit up again. This time, Leonardo glimpsed the thread. "Can't wait to see you back in Seattle. That uncle of yours treating you right? Or should I come rescue you?" The words blurred with hurt, and when Alex stepped away to take the call, voice low and affectionate, Leonardo's world tilted. He confronted him that evening, as they hiked Hurricane Ridge, the alpine air sharp against their lungs, peaks shrouded in low clouds. "Is there someone else?" The question burst out midway up the trail, raw and unpolished. Alex stopped, wind whipping his hair, expression crumbling from surprise to guilt. "Jordan's just complicated. We were something before I came here, but it's over. You're it for me, Leo." The plea in his eyes was genuine, but the fracture had formed, trust eroding like coastal bluffs under tidal pull. They drove home in heavy silence, the ferry crossing a gray expanse that mirrored the divide. Back in the apartment, reconciliation came in whispers and touches, bodies seeking what words failed. But the doubt lingered, a quiet storm brewing. Weeks blurred into a tense equilibrium. Leonardo buried himself deeper in work, the bridge project reaching fever pitch with inspections and stakeholder meetings that left him drained. Alex threw himself into finals prep, his sketches evolving into passionate essays on ecosystem resilience. But his laughter came less freely, eyes shadowed by the weight of their secrecy. Friends noticed, Jordan's texts tapered, replaced by group chats Alex ignored, and the isolation pressed in, a third presence in their bed. The betrayal arrived unannounced, a Thursday evening when Leonardo worked late. He came home to find the apartment dim, takeout containers on the counter, and voices from the living room. Alex's, laced with that easy affection reserved for old flames. Peering through the cracked door, Leonardo saw them. Alex and Jordan on the couch, knees touching, Jordan's hand on Alex's thigh as they shared a joint, smoke curling like accusations. The kiss that followed was brief but searing, a lapse that shattered the fragile trust Leonardo had rebuilt. He slipped out unnoticed, walking the rain-slick streets until his shoes squelched, ending up at a bar in Belltown where the whiskey burned away the image. Hours later, he returned, the door slamming like a gavel. Alex jumped up, Jordan vanishing with mumbled excuses, the air thick with reefer and regret. "How could you?" Leonardo's voice broke, the engineer's precision giving way to raw ache. Alex's face crumpled, tears streaking his cheeks. "It was nothing. A stupid mistake. I was scared, Leo, the hiding, the lies to Mom. Jordan's easy, no strings." The admission cut deeper than denial, exposing the rot beneath their romance. The argument raged, words like shrapnel. Leonardo's accusations of recklessness, Alex's pleas of confusion. The forbidden nature of their bond laid bare as both poison and panacea. By midnight, exhausted and empty, they collapsed into separate beds, the wall between rooms a chasm wider than the sound. Dawn broke with the relentless patter of rain, a gray shroud over the city that matched the hollow in Leonardo's chest. He rose before Alex, brewing coffee on autopilot, the machine's gurgle a mocking echo of domesticity lost. Staring out the kitchen window at the blur of Broadway traffic, commuters hunched under umbrellas, baristas hustling lattes. He felt the weight of 42 years pressing down, a lifetime of careful constructions now reduced to rubble. The betrayal replayed in loops. Jordan's hand possessive on Alex's leg, the casual intimacy that Leonardo could never claim in daylight. He poured a mug, black and bitter, and sank onto a stool, head in hands, the steam rising like unanswered prayers. Alex emerged an hour later, hair tousled from fitful sleep, eyes red-rimmed and shadowed. He hovered in the doorway, t-shirt rumpled, the silence between them a living thing, tense, accusatory. "Leo," he started, voice cracking like thin ice. "Can we talk?" Leonardo looked up, hazel eyes hardened by hurt. "Talk? Or explain why I walked in on you with him?" The words lashed out sharper than intended, but the wound was fresh, festering. Alex crossed the room, perching on the edge of the counter, fingers twisting the hem of his shirt. "It wasn't planned. Jordan texted, said he was in town for a conference. I invited him over because, I don't know, I panicked. We've been so locked in here, lying to everyone. Felt like breathing room." His gaze dropped, shame etching lines on his young face. "But I stopped it. After the kiss, I told him to go. Because it's you I want. Only you." The confession hung there, fragile as mist, and Leonardo wanted to believe it. Wanted the romance they'd spun from stolen moments to hold against the storm. But doubt had taken root, twining around his heart like ivy on brick. "Family doesn't do this, Alex. We crossed a line, and now it's a goddamn abyss. What happens when Maria finds out? When your friends do? This isn't some indie film. It's our lives." Alex slid down, kneeling between Leonardo's legs, hands gripping his thighs with desperate urgency. "Then we fight for it. We tell them. Or we don't, but we make it work. I love you, Leo. Not like a nephew. Like everything." The words trembled, raw and unfiltered, green eyes pleading for absolution. Leonardo's resolve cracked, fingers threading into Alex's hair, pulling him up into a kiss that tasted of salt and sorrow. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but a bridge, tentative, swaying over the chasm. They made love that morning on the kitchen floor, slow and searching, bodies mapping apologies where words fell short. Afterward, curled on the cool tile, Alex whispered plans. A weekend away, just them, to reset. Leonardo nodded, holding him close, but the seed of fear had sprouted, whispering of inevitable collapse. The following days were a fragile truce, emotions ebbing and flowing like tides on Alki Beach. Leonardo threw himself into the bridge project with renewed fervor, the retrofit now a metaphor for his own repairs. welding seams, testing loads, ensuring stability against unseen stresses. His team noticed the distraction, ribbing him gently over lunch at the site trailer. "Vargas, you look like you haven't slept since the quake drills." He laughed it off, but inside, the quakes were constant. Aftershocks of betrayal rippling through every touch. Alex, meanwhile, withdrew into his studies, holing up in coffee shops like Analog on Capitol Hill, where the hiss of espresso machines drowned his thoughts. He texted Leonardo throughout the day, silly memes of otters holding hands, snippets of lecture notes on tidal restoration, small lifelines to pull them back to shore. Evenings brought tentative reconnections. Walks along the Burke-Gilman Trail, where joggers blurred past and the canal reflected fractured city lights. They talked, really talked, about Alex's fears of disappointing his parents, the pressure of being the golden child in a family fraying at the edges, about Leonardo's divorce, the years of suppression that left him armored in solitude. One night, over a bottle of Cabernet from the Columbia Valley, deep red like the ache in his veins, Leonardo opened the vault of his past. Seated on the balcony, city hum below and stars veiled by light pollution, he spoke of his first love. A boy named Mateo in undergrad, stolen summers in the San Juans, kayaking coves where seals basked on rocks. He left for grad school in Boston, said distance was too much. I let him go without a fight. The admission spilled out, laced with the regret of paths not taken. Alex listened, head on Leonardo's shoulder, then shared his own. The fumbling hookup with Jordan at a frat party, more confusion than connection. A step toward self but shadowed by performance. The vulnerability bonded them anew, romance rekindling in quiet gestures. A mixtape Alex curated of queer folk artists, played on vinyl during dinner. A sketch Leonardo found tucked in his briefcase, Alex's rendering of them as intertwined oaks on a cliffside, roots delving deep. Intimacy returned, softer now, laced with emotional depth. Mornings of lazy exploration, fingers tracing constellations on skin. Afternoons lost in the sheets while rain lashed the windows. But the external world conspired. Maria called again, this time with news. A job offer for her husband in Spokane. A potential move north. Would you mind if Alex stayed longer? Through the holidays, maybe? Her voice bubbled with hope, unaware of the minefield. Leonardo agreed, throat tight, the lie compounding like interest on a debt. Alex overheard, face paling. We can't keep this up forever, he said later. As they lay in the dark, bodies spent but minds restless. It's eating us alive. The crisis escalated mid-month, a perfect storm of deadlines and doubts. Leonardo's project hit a snag. Structural flaws in the original plans, forcing overtime that stretched into all-nighters at the office. Alex, stressed by exams, sought solace in old habits, meeting Jordan for coffee that stretched into drinks at a bar in Fremont. Leonardo discovered it via a mutual friend's casual text. Saw Alex with that cute piercings guy at the alibi room. Looked cozy. The words ignited fury, and he stormed home, finding Alex alone but reeking of gin and regret. This time, the fight was cataclysmic. You're playing with fire, Alex. I'm not some experiment while you figure shit out. Leonardo's voice echoed off the walls, hands gesturing wildly, the engineer's precision shattered. Alex fired back, tears streaming. And you're suffocating me. Always the adult, the one who knows best. I need space to breathe, Leo. Not your rules, your fears. The accusation landed true, exposing Leonardo's control as the cage it was. In the wreckage, Alex packed a bag, crashing at a friend's in the U District. Leonardo paced the empty apartment, the silence deafening, rain mocking his isolation. Days blurred into a fog of work and whiskey, blueprints smudged with careless tears. He reached out once, a text, "Come home, please." But pride and fear silenced replies. The turning point came unbidden, a knock at midnight on the third night. Alex stood there, soaked and shivering, duffel at his feet. "I can't do this without you," he choked out, collapsing into Leonardo's arms. They held each other on the threshold, sobs mingling with rain, the embrace a lifeline in the deluge. Forgiveness was not a single act but a process, slow as moss creeping over stone. They attended counseling, discreet sessions at the LGBTQ Center, where a therapist named Kai unpacked the taboos with gentle probes, the power imbalances of age and relation, the societal scripts they defied. Sessions unearthed buried pains. Leonardo's internalized shame from Catholic upbringing, Alex's anxiety over legacy, the Vargas name a chain of expectations. Romance reemerged, tempered by growth. They set boundaries, honesty as gospel, space for individual lives. Alex distanced from Jordan, blocking numbers. Leonardo delegated at work, carving time for them. Weekends became sacred. Picnics in Discovery Park, where meadows met bluffs, bodies entwined under blankets as fairies horned in the distance. Love deepened, humanizing the forbidden. Notes left in pockets. "I see you," scrawled on fogged mirrors. Yet the emotional crescendo built, a wave-gathering force. Maria announced the move, arriving for a visit to Scout Seattle Rentals. The deception loomed, a sword over their idol. Maria's arrival descended like a Pacific squall. Sudden, soaking, impossible to ignore. She flew in on a Friday, rental car packed with Texas-sized energy. Coolers of homemade salsa and brisket, stories of Austin's heat waves spilling from her lips as Leonardo hugged her at the airport. At 45, she was a force. Curly black hair streaked with silver, laugh lines etched deep from years of wrangling life's curveballs. "Leo, you look good," she declared, pinching his cheek like he was still the gangly teen she defended from neighborhood bullies. "Seattle's treating you right." Alex trailed behind, offering a one-armed embrace, his smile tight, green eyes flicking to Leonardo with a mix of dread and defiance. The apartment transformed overnight into a stage set for normalcy. Leonardo cleared his drafting table of half-finished models. Alex stashed his sketchbooks under the bed, and they choreographed their days like a duet in a screwball comedy. Brotherly banter over breakfast, separate rooms at night, touches limited to fleeting pats on the back. Maria, oblivious, filled the space with her vitality. Tours of the Space Needle, where she oohed at the view of Mount Rainier piercing clouds. Lunches at Matt's in the market, oysters slurped with tales of her real estate hustle. "Spokane's got potential," she enthused, napkin tucked into her collar. "Cheaper than here, but that mountain air? Gold." Beneath the performance, tension coiled like a spring. Leonardo caught Alex's gaze across dinner tables, a silent Morse code of longing and restraint. Nights with Maria snoring in the guest room. They met in the kitchen under guise of midnight snacks. Whispers over cold leftovers, fingers brushing in the fridge's glow. "This is torture," Alex breathed one evening, cornering Leonardo against the counter, lips grazing his ear. Leonardo silenced him with a finger to his mouth, heart hammering. "Soon," he promised, though the word tasted like ash. The visit stretched, Maria extending her stay to house hunt, her presence a constant spotlight. She noticed the undercurrents, though subtle as seismic rumbles. "You two seem close," she remarked over coffee at Victrola, steam curling between them. "Like real friends, not just uncle-nephew." Alex choked on his pour-over, Leonardo stirring cream with undue focus. "He's been great," Alex managed, foot nudging Leonardo's under the table. A spark in the mundane. Conflict erupted midweek, a powder keg lit by proximity. Maria dragged them to a family-style Italian spot in Belltown, candlelit booths humming with locals. Over plates of carbonara and tiramisu, conversation veered to the personal. Maria probing Leonardo's dating life, her fork pausing midair. 5 years single? Leo, your prime rib. What's the holdup? He deflected with a joke about engineering's demands, but Alex shifted beside him, thigh pressing against his in the cramped booth. A deliberate tease that sent heat pooling low. Later, back at the apartment, with Maria tucked in early from jet lag, the dam burst. Alex cornered Leonardo in the hallway, hands fisting his shirt, pulling him into a kiss that was all teeth and desperation. "I can't pretend anymore," he growled against Leonardo's neck, nipping skin as hands roamed south. They stumbled to the bathroom, door locked, steam from a hasty shower fogging the mirror as bodies collided. Urgent, reclaiming. Leonardo braced against the sink, Alex behind him, thrusts sinking with muffled gasps, the risk amplifying every sensation. Release came shuddering, but guilt followed swift, a cold wave crashing over the afterglow. Morning brought reckoning. Maria, up early for a dawn yoga class at the nearby studio, returned to find them in the kitchen. Alex in boxers, Leonardo in a towel, the air thick with unspoken post-coital haze. Her eyes narrowed, piecing fragments. The rumpled sheets she'd glimpsed, the charged silences. "What's going on here?" she demanded, voice low thunder, crossing arms over her chest. Denials crumbled under her gaze. Leonardo confessed first, words tumbling like an avalanche. The accidental glimpse, the slow burn of attraction, the love that had bloomed despite the taboo. Alex stood silent, tears tracking down his face, until Maria turned to him. "Mom, it's real," he whispered. "I love him." The room spun into chaos. Maria's shouts echoing off brick, accusations of betrayal, of corruption. "My brother? My son? This is sick," Leo twisted. She paced, hands in hair, the immigrant matriarch's fire clashing with progressive ideals she championed in theory but never faced. Leonardo absorbed the blows, standing firm. "It's not sickness, Maria. It's us. Human, messy, but true." She stormed out, slamming the door, leaving them in stunned silence. The betrayal cut deepest from her. The sister who'd trusted him implicitly, now seeing him as predator. Alex collapsed against Leonardo, sobs racking his frame. "We should have told her sooner." Leonardo held him, jaw clenched, the fracture in their family a mirror to his own crumbling facade. Maria returned that evening, eyes swollen, a bottle of tequila in hand. Aged añejo from a duty-free shop, a peace offering or white flag. They sat at the table, shots poured neat, the burn loosening tongues. "I need to understand," she said, voice raw. "How long? Why him?" The questions poured out, laced with pain, and they answered, haltingly at first, then with depth. The emotional voids they'd filled in each other, the societal chains they'd broken, the love that defied labels. It was a vigil of sorts, lasting till dawn. Tears and toasts, Maria grappling with revulsion yielding to reluctant empathy. "You're adults," she conceded finally, head on the table. "But family, this changes everything." Hugs followed, tentative, the bond bent but not broken. She agreed to Spokane without them, promising space, therapy referrals clutched like lifelines. The aftermath was a whirlwind of emotional fallout. Maria's departure left the apartment echoing, but freedom came with it. No more charades, hands held openly on the couch, kisses without glancing at doors. Romance flourished in the open air. Dates at the Rep Theater, where they watched plays on identity, bodies pressed in velvet seats. Drives to Bainbridge Island, ferry decks where they leaned on rails, wind-whipping confessions of forever. Yet crisis lingered in shadows. Work whispers reached Leonardo. A colleague spotting them at a cafe, eyebrows raised over, "That kid's staying with you." The bridge project climaxed in a high-stakes presentation to City Council, where his focus frayed, slides glitching as doubt crept in. "Is this sustainable?" he confided to Alex post-meeting, over beers at a brewpub in Georgetown. Alex cupped his face, thumb stroking stubble. "We are." Beam by beam, deeper turmoil brewed internally. Alex's therapy unearthed buried resentments, the power dynamic chafing, Leonardo's age a symbol of constraints. "Sometimes I feel like your project," he admitted one night, curled in bed, voice small. "Something to fix." Leonardo's heart seized, pulling him close. "You're my world, not my work. But if it's too much, say it." The vulnerability cracked him open. Tears shared in the dark, a recommitment forged in honesty. External pressures mounted. A family group chat erupting when Maria confided in their mother. Abuelita's prayers turning to pleas for normalcy. Protests called Alex away, his passion for justice pulling him to marches where rainbow flags waved alongside climate banners. Leonardo joined once, standing on the sidelines, pride swelling at Alex's firebrand speeches, but fear gnawing. Cameras everywhere, exposure a click away. The emotional peak hit during Pride Month. Seattle's streets a riot of color and chant. They march together, hands linked defiantly. The crowds roar a bomb to wounds. But in the throng, a familiar face. Jordan, eyes widening in recognition, phone raised. The photo went viral in niche circles. A grainy shot of incestuous vibes? Captioned with speculation. Backlash flooded. Anonymous DMs to Alex's uni account, calls to Leonardo's firm questioning ethics. Betrayal's echo resounded. Not from Alex but the world, forcing confrontation. We face it together, Alex vowed, barricading the door against paparazzi-light neighbors. In the siege, their love hardened. Romantic notes scrawled on protest flyers, bodies finding solace in the storm. Healing began in fragments. A public statement from Maria, fierce defense online. Therapy evolving to couples work, unpacking taboos with Kai's steady guidance. Leonardo's project launched successfully. The bridge a symbol of crossed divides. Ribbon cutting with Alex in the crowd, cheers drowning doubts. Yet the journey curved inward, emotions layering like Seattle's strata. Joy over grief, passion tempering pain. They traveled to the San Juans, kayaking coves where Leonardo's past whispered, Alex's hand in his present anchor. This is our story, Alex said, seals barking in the distance. Leonardo believed it for the first time. Summer waned into autumn's amber haze, leaves turning gold along the arboretum paths. But the scandal's aftershocks lingered like smoke from a wildfire. Leonardo's phone buzzed with notifications. Colleagues' cautious texts. A HR email scheduling a discretionary chat that left him pacing the office, fists clenched against the glass overlooking the monorail's serpentine track. Personal matters won't impact performance, he assured them, voice steady, but inside, the exposure clawed at his composure, a reminder that love, when bared, invited judgment's blade. Alex fared worse at UW, whispers in lecture halls, a professor pulling him aside post-class with concerned brows. Heard about your living situation. Resources available if needed. The concern masked pity, and Alex returned home seething, slamming his backpack on the counter. They think I'm a victim, like you groomed me or some shit. Leonardo pulled him into an embrace, chin resting on tousled hair, the scent of rain-damp wool and Alex's citrus shampoo a fleeting comfort. Let them think what they want. We know the truth. But the words rang hollow against the barrage. Online trolls dissecting their story in Reddit threads, ethical dilemmas hashed out in ethics forums, the queer community's own divide fracturing over consent and kinship, pride's euphoria curdled into isolation, friends ghosting, invitations drying up like the Duwamish at low tide. The emotional crisis deepened, a chasm widening beneath their feet. Alex withdrew, sketches abandoned for all-nighters in the library, his environmental passion curdling into apathy. What's the point? He muttered one evening, staring at a half-eaten burrito from the El Centro truck. Save the planet while mine falls apart. Leonardo watched him unravel, the vibrant nephew he'd fallen for fraying at the edges. Sleepless eyes, sharp retorts replacing laughter. Guilt gnawed at Leonardo, the older man's burden. Had he imposed this chaos, his desires a catalyst for Alex's fall? Their intimacy suffered, touches tentative, lovemaking mechanical, a checklist of reassurance rather than fire. One night, after a failed attempt that left them staring at the ceiling, Alex rolled away, back a wall of muscle and silence. I feel trapped, he confessed to the dark. Like we're a scandal, not a story. Leonardo reached out, fingers hovering, then withdrawing. Then what do we do? End it? The question hung, a guillotine blade. Alex turned, green eyes glistening. No, but we need to heal. Separately, maybe. The suggestion pierced, but wisdom nodded agreement. They agreed to space. A trial separation, Alex crashing with a sympathetic prof in Ravenna. Leonardo rattling alone in the apartment, the bed vast and cold. Solitude was a brutal teacher. Leonardo filled days with overtime, the bridge now operational, cars humming across its span like blood in veins. Nights brought reckoning, journals filled with scrawls on shame, therapy sessions where Kai probed the roots, childhood taunts in Phoenix suburbs, the closet suffocation, divorce's echo of unworthiness. He walked the waterfront, fairy horns mournful, tossing pebbles into the sound as if to sink regrets. Friends reemerged tentatively, a queer engineers group at a brewery in Soto, where he shared fragments, laughter tentative but real. Alex's journey mirrored in reverse. In Ravenna's book-lined guest room, he dove into activism, channeling hurt into a campus panel on queer family dynamics. Beyond blood. His voice, once tentative, rang with fire, stories of chosen kin, taboos as societal constructs. Protests reignited his spark. Banners for land back and love free waved in his grip. Therapy unpacked his end of the knot. The allure of Leonardo's stability masking his own fear of rootlessness, Jordan's betrayal a projection of self-doubt. Sketches returned, bolder, portraits of fractured families mending, roots intertwining across divides. Reconnection came circuitously, a chance encounter at the Fremont Fair, troll bridges and artisan stalls buzzing under September sun. Leonardo wandered booths, fingering hand-thrown mugs, when Alex appeared, arm in arm with a new friend. Riley, a non-binary artist with blue hair and easy grin. Jealousy flared, then faded at Alex's wave. Genuine, platonic. They talked over solstice corn dogs, awkward at first, then flowing. Alex's panel triumph, Leonardo's promotion to lead engineer on a green retrofit. "I've missed this," Alex admitted, elbow nudging. "Us talking like people, not prisoners." The spark reignited slowly, coffee dates evolving to dinners at low-key spots like Ba Bar, faux steaming between confessions. Romance returned in whispers, a hand on the small of the back guiding through crowds, eyes locking across crowded rooms. But maturity tempered it, boundaries drawn like rebar in concrete, weekly check-ins, individual pursuits sacred. Leonardo joined a hiking group, summiting Rattlesnake Ledge where vistas of the Cascades humbled his ego. Alex mentored freshmen in the Queer Alliance, his empathy forged in fire. The true crisis peaked in winter's grip, snow blanketing the Olympics like a shroud. Maria visited for Thanksgiving, the apartment neutral ground, turkey roasting in the oven as tension simmered. Conversations skirted the elephant, politics, weather, until liqueurs loosened guards. "I've been reading," Maria said, swirling brandy. "Books on this family beyond norms." Her vulnerability cracked the ice, admissions flowing. Her own regrets, a college fling with a woman buried in youth. Hugs followed, tearful, the family fracturing yielding to flexible form. But fate twisted sharper. A letter arrived, Abuelita, frail in her Tucson assisted living, summoning them for Christmas. "Come home," the shaky script read. "Heal what breaks." The pull was magnetic, but terror shadowed. Conservative kin, whispers of scandal crossing borders. The journey south was a pilgrimage, I-5 yielding to arid highways, saguaro's sentinel in the dark. Tucson welcomed with citrus bloom and dust devils. Abuelita's bungalow a time capsule of saints and sepia photos. Dinner unfolded in stilted Spanish English, aunts probing careers, cousins eyeing Alex with curiosity. The truth emerged poster, over flan, Leonardo's hand finding Alex's under the table. "We're together," he announced, voice steady as rebar. Silence crashed, then questions, shock, prayers, a uncle's quiet nod of solidarity. Betrayal stung from the expected. A cousin's leaked story to family WhatsApp, judgments flying like arrows. Abuelita, eyes milky with age, silenced them with a raised hand. "Love is God's design, not man's map." Her blessing? Hard won. Mended fractures, stories shared till dawn of her own hidden affections. Back in Seattle, healed but scarred, they rebuilt. Spring brought renewal, cherry blossoms in the U District, Alex's thesis defense aced, Leonardo's firm sponsoring a queer internship. Romance bloomed human. Lazy Sundays in bed, reading poetry aloud. Road trips to Olympic hot springs, bodies soaking in mineral warmth, souls in tandem. Crisis echoed in smaller waves. A homophobic heckler at Alex's rally, Leonardo's fist itching. A work rival dredging the scandal for leverage, dismissed by HR's rainbow policy. Each tested, each fortified. Love matured, less wildfire, more hearth, deep, enduring. By summer's return, they stood on the bridge Leonardo built. Railings cool under palms, ships gliding below. "We made it," Alex murmured, head on shoulder. Leonardo kissed his temple, wind carrying the words, "And we'll keep making it." Autumn deepened, leaves carpeting the sidewalks in crimson and ochre, but the real turning came internal. A quiet revolution in the marrow of their days. Leonardo's promotion brought stability, a corner office with views of the Olympics, but more, mentorship programs where he guided young engineers, sharing not just specs but stories of resilience, the hidden loads we all carry. Alex graduated with honors, his thesis on resilient ecosystems landing him an internship at a nonprofit in Ballard, mapping urban green corridors that wove nature back into concrete veins. Their lives intertwined without entanglement, separate orbits, gravitational pull intact. Romance evolved into something profound, less about conquest and more communion. Date nights at the Tractor Tavern, bluegrass twang pulling them to the dance floor, bodies swaying in dim light, laughter bubbling as Alex stepped on toes. Weekends in the San Juan Islands, ferries cutting foam, cabins where they cooked paella over open fires, stars pricking the ink-black sky, intimacy layered with tenderness. Massages after long days, fingers kneading knots while conversations delved into dreams. Alex's vision of policy change, Leonardo's quiet hope for a life unapologetic. Yet the path to healing was not linear, pocked with regressions. A nightmare jolted Leonardo awake one February night, sweat-soaked, visions of Maria's initial rage morphing into Abuelita's funeral, family shunning them at the grave. Alex stirred, pulling him close, heartbeat a metronome against his back. "It's over," he whispered, but the fear clung, manifesting in overprotectiveness. Checking Alex's phone for ghosts of Jordan, second-guessing public affection. Therapy caught it. Kai's questions peeling layers. Is this love or control reborn? Alex confronted his own shadows, the internship exposing burnout's edge, late nights drafting reports, the weight of systemic failures mirroring personal ones. A panic attack hit during a site visit to a polluted Superfund stretch of the Duwamish, chest tightening as toxins in the water echoed betrayals ingested. Leonardo found him curled on the riverbank, breaths ragged. "I can't fix everything," Alex gasped, mud-streaked face buried in knees. Leonardo knelt, hands steadying. "You don't have to. Just be here with me." The deeper crisis brewed from without. A journalist from The Stranger, Seattle's alt weekly, sniffing their story for a taboo love feature. Emails pinged, requests for quotes laced with sensationalism. "Humanize us or we walk," Leonardo replied, but the exposure loomed, a specter of old wounds. They debated in the kitchen, steam from tortoise rising like debate points. Alex advocating transparency. "Let the world see we're real." Leonardo cautioning, "Some battles pick us, not the reverse." Decision crystallized over a hike in Discovery Park, salt air whipping as they crested the bluff. "We tell our story," Alex said, voice firm, green eyes sea-bright. "On our terms." They pitched to a queer podcast, Bridges and Blood. A 2-hour raw pour. The hook of that rainy intrusion. The blaze of passion, betrayal's sting, healing's labor. Listeners flooded with messages. Stories echoed, solidarity woven. The feature ran, not as scandal but testament, headlines shifting. "Forbidden no more. A love that redefines family." Betrayal's final echo came familial. A cousin's wedding in Austin pulling them south. Maria insisted, "Show them." But the reception hall buzzed with side eyes, whispers behind champagne flutes. An uncle cornered Leonardo by the barbecue. Breath boozy. "Ruining the name, eh? Blood's thicker." Alex overheard, storming over, speech fiery. "Love thickens it, or what's the point?" The confrontation cleared air, pockets of allies emerging. Aunt's quiet hug, cousin's late-night beer confessional of his own closet. Healing accelerated post-wedding, a road trip east to Spokane for Maria's new home warming. The drive through Cascades, evergreens bowing to meadows, mirrored their arc, twists yielding to open sky. Maria greeted with open arms, her partner Tom grilling salmon on the deck overlooking the river. Dinner unfolded in warmth, toasts to reinvention. Maria pulling Alex aside for mother-son whispers that ended in tears and embraces. "I see it now," she told Leonardo later. Over coffee on the porch, stars vast. "You're light in him. Don't let go." Back in Seattle, winter yielded to spring's insistent green, emotions cresting in quiet epiphanies. Leonardo proposed therapy integration, couples yoga at a studio in Fremont, poses sinking breaths, downward dogs dissolving barriers. Alex initiated a gratitude jar, slips of paper noting daily joys. Your laugh in the rain, the way you hum off-key to Springsteen, romance infused the mundane. Picnics on Gasworks Park, kites dancing over rusting relics, bodies picnicked on blankets with prosciutto and figs. Crisis revisited in micro. A work setback for Leonardo, budget cuts threatening his green project, stress manifesting in migraines. Alex nursed him with cold compresses and chamomile, reading aloud from Octavia Butler, parables of survival that soothed. Reciprocally, Alex's grant denial hit hard, imposter syndrome whispering failures. Leonardo countered with a vision board, magazine clippings of wetlands restored, their faces pasted amid. We build, together. The emotional zenith arrived in June, Pride's rainbow tide swelling streets. This year, they led a contingent, families reimagined. Banners bold, stories shared on floats. The crowd's roar was cathartic, hands linked high, confetti raining like absolution. But midway, a counter-protester's slur cut through. "Pervert uncle!" Alex faltered, grip tightening, but Leonardo turned, voice calm. "Love isn't perversion. Ignorance is." The moment passed, but lingered, a test passed in unity. Healing's arc bent toward advocacy. Alex co-founded a support group at the center, Kin Without Limits, circles where stories like theirs found voice. Leonardo guest spoke at engineering conferences, weaving personal narrative into talks on inclusive design. Structures for all lives, seen and unseen. Their love humanized, rippling outward. Maria's blog on queer ties. Abuelita's letters peppered with pride pins sent from Tucson. Intimacy peaked in vulnerability. A weekend at a cabin in the Methow Valley. No signal, just them and the river's rush. They hiked to a waterfall, mist cloaking as they made love on mossy banks, water thundering approval. "You're my compass," Leonardo murmured, tracing the tattoo. Alex smiled, fingers interlaced. "And you're my wild." By fall's equinox, equilibrium held. They adopted a rescue dog, a scruffy mutt named Rio, romps in Magnuson Park forging family in fur and fetch. Dreams aligned. Alex eyeing grad school and policy, Leonardo plotting a sabbatical for a cross-country queer history tour. The journey's core revealed itself in small graces. The coffee run where baristas knew their orders, usuals laced with cream. The argument over dishes dissolving into giggles. The quiet knowing that love, earned through fire, burned eternal. Winter's solstice approached, shortest day mirroring the long arc they'd traveled. From shadowed intrusion to luminous expanse. Seattle donned its festive veil. Holiday markets in the square twinkling with lights, chestnuts roasting under awnings. The air crisp with pine and possibility. Leonardo and Alex navigated it hand in hoof. Rio's leash tugging them through crowds, their fingers brushing in the throng. A casual intimacy now etched in habit. The scandal's embers had cooled to ash, replaced by quiet acclaim. Invitations to panels, a short docuseries pitch from a local filmmaker capturing their bridge across blood. Yet true climax brewed in introspection, emotions distilling to essence. Leonardo, staring at his reflection in the drafting mirror, gray threads weaving thicker through dark hair, confronted mortality's whisper. At 43, The years tallied like blueprints. Loves lost, structures raised. A heart rebuilt in Alex's image. One evening, over mulled wine by the fireplace, logs popping like punctuation, he voiced it. What if this is the peak? Us now before life pulls harder. Alex set down his mug, green eyes steady, snow flurrying past the window. Then we summit it. Together. No what-ifs. Alex's turmoil-crested parallel, internship yielding to full-time at the nonprofit, the role's demands a forge for his ideals. A major grant win, funding for a Duwamish restoration project, brought elation, but imposter's echo lingered. Am I enough? Late one night, post-celebratory team dinner at a taqueria in White Center. He returned to find Leonardo asleep on the couch, Rio curled at his feet, a half-read novel splayed on his chest. The sight undid him, vulnerability unguarded, love manifest in repose. Tears came unbidden, and he woke Leonardo with a kiss, words spilling. You're my enough. Always. Betrayal's ghost revisited subtly, a holiday card from Jordan. Apologetic scrawl, wishing healing, stirring old silt. Alex shared it openly, no secrets, and they burned it in the sink, flames dancing as laughter rose. Past fuel for present fire, Leonardo quipped, pulling him close, bodies aligning in the kitchen's warmth, lovemaking slow and sacred, counters bearing witness. Healing's crescendo unfolded over Christmas in Tucson, Abuelita's bungalow aglow with luminarias, the desert night velvet with stars. Family gathered, tensions eased by time, Maria's arm linking Leonardo's, Tom's dad jokes bridging gaps. Abuelita, frielier now, pulled them to her side post-midnight mass, rosary beads clicking. Dios bends for love, she murmured, pressing saint medals into their palms, silver anchors against storms. The gesture sanctified, wounds cauterized in candlelight, carols swelling with shared voices. Return brought renewal's flood. Spring equinox saw them plant a garden on the balcony, native salal and ferns, Alex's hands in soil mirroring his heart's tilling. Romance wove through workdays. Lunch picnics on the office green, Leonardo's ties loosened for Alex's impromptu visits. Poetry slams where Alex read originals, Leonardo in the front row, applause thundering pride. Crisis's final bow was professional. A city council hearing on the green retrofit. Opponents dredging personal mud to discredit Leonardo's vision. Biases cloud judgment. A counselor sneered, echoing tabloid ghosts. Alex testified unbidden, voice resonant. My partner's integrity built that bridge you cross daily. Judge the work, not the man. The room shifted, vote passing 6-3. Cheers erupting as they embraced on the steps. Cameras flashing benediction. Emotions peaked in summer's zenith. Anniversary marked by a vow renewal. Not legal, but soul deep. At the cabin in Port Angeles where doubt once crested. They stood on the porch, straight winds choral. Rings exchanged. Simple tungsten bands engraved, entwined. Vows poured. Leonardo's, I choose your wild every dawn. Alex's, you're steady my compass eternal. Lovemaking followed under quilts. Bodies a testament to endurance. Dawn breaking gold over waves. Humanity's thread wove through it all. Their love a microcosm of larger graces. They volunteered at the center, mentoring couples navigating kin taboos. Alex's project restored a salmon run, fish leaping free as metaphors. Leonardo designed a community center edition, walls etched with stories of chosen families. Autumn circled back, leaves falling like released burdens. One evening, atop the bridge at sunset, city aglow, sound sapphire, they leaned on rails, Rio at heel. Everything changed that night, Alex said, hand in Leonardo's. For the better. Leonardo nodded, hazel meeting green. And it keeps changing, us into more. The journey closed not with fanfare but quiet profundity. Love is verb, active in forgiveness, fierce in advocacy, tender in touch. In a world of fractures, they'd built a span enduring, elegant. Theirs,